call to order the City of Geneva Historic Preservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. May we start with a roll call, please?
Hartman.
Here.
Jensen. Here. McManus. Solomon.
Here.
Stazen.
Here. I believe we have a quorum. Approval of minutes for January 18th, 2023. May I have a motion, please? Or any,
Motion to approve minutes as written.
okay, any other discussion? Do we need a second on this?
I second that.
Okay. Can we do the roll for approval, please?
Hartman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Abstain.
Solomon.
Aye.
Stazen.
I'll have to abstain as well. But I guess the motion carries. 5-minute field guide, Michael?
Thank you, Chairman Pro Tem. The 5-minute field guide tonight is somewhat of a review, but I think it's a good review to bring to the Commission every once in a while. But this is the 4 treatment options for historic properties. So just to review, one of the options for preserving properties is actually preservation, which is the act or process of applying measures necessary to sustain the existing form, integrity, and materials of a historic place. So good examples are the Acropolis, the pyramids, the Colosseum, a Mayan temple, where there's not a lot of intervention, but the buildings are continually maintained in their state of disrepair as a historic property. There is work allowed in this type of treatment. It can include measures to protect and stabilize the property, and items that would focus on ongoing maintenance and repair of the historic materials and features without adding features that would complete the building or replace materials. The intent is that it would be a limited scope type of work and something that would be sensitive to maintaining the building, but does allow for the intervention of modern mechanical systems, lighting, security, things such as that. The second treatment in preservation is rehabilitation. This is what we most commonly deal with here at the commission level. Rehabilitation is the act or process of making possible an efficient, compatible use for a property through the repair, alterations, and additions, while preserving those portions or features that convey a property's historical, cultural, or architectural value, while ensuring continued and future viability of the property. So work may be quite extensive, as with the White House. As most of you know, the interior was completely gutted in the 1940s and was reconstructed. So it's the exterior walls of the White House that were preserved. Everything else was reconstructed. It may be something as minimal, with minimal intervention, such as a commercial storefront or the repurposing of an old gas station into a winery or a coffee shop. Or it may be something like the 1857 stone house at the lower left, which the stone house itself was restored, but then significant additions were added to 3 sides of the property. Restoration is the act or process of accurately depicting the form, features, and character of a property as it appeared at a particular period of time, by means of both the removal of features from other periods in its history, as well as the reconstruction of missing features from the restoration period. We see this typically with the most significant or most historic properties in the United States, or properties that are being preserved for interpretive use, such as museums or historic sites. Typically, restoration allows for the limited and sensitive upgrading of minimal mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems and other code-required work to make the properties functional. Examples again are the Lincoln Home in Springfield, a railroad depot, the Edith Farnsworth House in Plano, or a commercial block that may have windows restored or the turret restored and other architectural features restored, and things such as maybe building skins from the 1950s being removed so that the historic brick is exposed. And then the last treatment is probably the most intrusive of preservation means, but it's total reconstruction, which is the act or process of depicting by means of new construction the form, features, and detailing of a non-surviving site, landscape, building, structure, or object for the purpose of replicating its appearance at a specific period of time in its historic location. So typically, reconstruction is either complete or a partial reconstruction required to represent a specific place. Oftentimes it's based on archaeological research that will identify the size and location of structural members of a historic property. So the examples I've shown here today are the Globe Theatre in England, which is a total reconstruction based on archaeological excavations. Plymouth Plantation, which is a representation of what the original Plymouth Plantation was believed to be like, but it's not on the historic site of the Plymouth Plantation. The middle image at the lower line is the recreation of the Apple River Fort from the Black Hawk War of 1832 in Elizabeth, Illinois. Again, based on extensive archaeological research that identified the size of the fort itself, as well as the outbuildings and the stockade locations. And then a rather creative example is the Minokan Plantation, which was the home of Francis Lightfoot Lee, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. The original house from the 18th century was badly damaged by fallen trees in the 1960s. And so a very innovative approach has been taken to rebuild the damaged portions of the house with structural steel and structural glass to represent the original form and spaces of the historic house without recreating the limestone structure itself. That is a National Park Service site, and this is a project that's been being reviewed and approved by the National Park Service in conformance with the Secretary of Interior standards. So again, there's 4 treatments to the under preservation. There's strict preservation, there's rehabilitation, there's restoration, and there's reconstruction. Are there any questions this evening? Were you totally mesmerized, Mr. Salomon?
I was riveted.
Thank you.
Except the Parthenon's kind of on the bubble on that, right? They really deconstructed it, and it was almost completely in pieces, as I've seen, and then they put it back together. So
There are hybrid cases in
Yeah.
examples that you can find that kind of combine all approaches or parts of some of the approaches.
Well, thank you, Michael. Our next agenda item is the review of conceptual development plans for 330 South River Lane. And Michael, I'll turn it over to you for the opening.
Thank you. So 330 South River Lane was before us in November, and the commission had several comments regarding the proposed design at that time. The applicants have come back with a revised concept for your review and comment tonight to give them direction so they can proceed with construction documents. So again, the property is located in the southeast corner of the local Geneva Historic District and is also located in the southeast corner of the Central Geneva Historic District. It's identified as a contributing property in both the local and the National Register District. I won't go through the whole entire history because we went through that at our last meeting, but the house was built in 1927 and had an addition put on in 1948. The addition is the wing to the right or to the north on the property. So just again to reacquaint yourselves with some of the details and the building. And then again reviewing the neighborhood context, to the south some new infill homes have been built in the last 4 years or so. To the north is a single-story ranch house from the 1950s, and to the west of this property is a circa 1968 split-level ranch that's been recently rehabilitated in a more contemporary style. Again, refreshing your memory, the reason for this request to expand the house to provide more space is because the second floor is really built out underneath the historic roof line, and the spaces are quite cramped. And also the subterranean garage has suffered from water issues, and that would like the applicant would like to correct that and make that livable space rather than a garage in that area of the house. Again, just some examples to refresh your memory of what the second floor consists of. So before I go into the concept review 2, I have included the concept review images that were presented in November. If you would like to see those, I'm not going to go through those unless the applicant or the commission needs to see those for reference. So this is what was presented by the applicants for tonight. So we have the site plan for the property with north up in this view. Just to reorient yourself, the yellow is the 1927 home. The green areas are the existing open porches. The orange at the upper part is the 1948 addition. The pinkish portion at the rear of the building is the proposed expansion of the first floor footprint, and the blue area is the proposed two-car garage detached from the house. The existing floor plan is on your left. The proposed first floor plan is on your right. Just to give you some reference, for easy reference, the pink area is the proposed expansion of the first floor, with the blue area being the detached garage. The second floor, again on the left, is the existing, and the proposed on the right. The second floor, as you can see, is a significant expansion, but again set behind the historic attic bedroom space. The facades are again existing on the left, proposed on the right, and in elevation, again, remember we're seeing these in 2D. You can see that the roof line has been expanded, but the large gable that was objectionable at the November review has been removed. So again, you can see what portion of the roof is really new height to the house. There are two new dormers being proposed. The historic dormer is being replaced, but replicated on the south side a little further towards the front. And then there's a new dormer, again, picking up off the historic dormer that is facing River Lane. You also have two areas that windows are being proposed to be altered. In November it was raised the concern about the paired window at the second floor possibly not meeting egress with the reconfigured room, so they're showing a single window at the front facade to meet egress, and then there are new windows being proposed where the overhead garage door had existed. It's also important to note, as has been noted in the staff report, that all of the windows were replaced in 2010, I believe was the date. So they are historic window openings, but the windows themselves are dating to 2010. The Fulton Street facade, which is the south facade, is the existing. Whoops. This is the elevation showing the proposed alterations, with the mass of the second floor now set back per the direction of the commission. A portion of the historic roof line has been retained to give this sense of the original proportion of the original house. The addition is offset at the rear from the south facade, and again the garage is detached. So again, just to give a quick reference to the what is new, you can see there. And then the window in the former bedroom that's being converted to a dining room is being altered. The yellow represents the original paired windows, but they are proposing to do a triple window to complement the historic triple window at what is now the proposed sitting room. And then we have the proposed rear elevation and the proposed right or north side elevation. Again, typically we would review the right elevation to the first architectural break or offset, so basically the 1948 wing. And even though the proposed rear elevation will be seen somewhat from the rear of the property if you were to be heading east on Fulton Street, typically we do not penalize projects that can be seen from a rear view because of the approach to the property. But these are the elevations. So again, just to give you an idea, the rear elevation is practically going to be all new construction basically, and the proposed right side, you can see that the majority of the massing is behind the original roof ridge, and except for the front dormer facing River Lane. So again, they've provided several renderings to give you an idea of what the property would look like in real time. So this is a view from River Lane looking to the west at the house. So looking at the River Lane facade. A couple of different views have been provided. So again, looking at basically street level, looking up at the house. The house sits up on a slight rise if you've been by the property. So this is kind of how you would see it. Again, another view from River Lane is if you're walking around the house. Looking straight up to the entryway from the sidewalk. So again, you can see that the new roof line is not visible from the street. Looking at it from the corner of River Lane and Fulton, looking back towards the northwest. And looking at the addition in the historic house from the Fulton Street side. And finally, looking at the house again from River Lane, looking towards the south at the house, and you can see the rear addition is set back of the original 1948 addition. So with that, that's a brief overview of the project. I would like to turn the podium over to the applicants, and you can come forward, and whoever is going to speak, and then you can tell me if you would like to start the floor plans, or if you want to start with the renderings.
You did such a great job of explaining it. I don't know, really just ready to answer questions. I was hoping that you would see how we addressed your comments, and it was a significant change, but we
Could
feel
you
like
please identify yourself?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm Dan Marshall from Marshall Architects in St. Charles. So we've made significant design changes to it, and we're just hoping that we could answer any questions.
George?
I'm fine right now.
You're good? Commissioner Hartman?
I don't really have any questions, but just comments on
Sure.
a job well done on especially the front elevation.
Well, thank you.
How that gable was a lot larger.
Yes.
Yeah. Significantly larger. So I can get to my page here. It's right here. No, I think it's you've done an excellent job at kind of maintaining the existing roof line. And that
Thank you.
it's not overpowered.
It sure shows it better in 3D than in 2D.
That helps. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
I wish we had all drawings, and and a CAD system this well done.
These come from Italy, the 3Ds.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, well,
a friend of Igor's did them for him.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes, you did a wonderful job with the improvements and the recommendations. I do have just a couple questions, and I'll start here since we're on the, excuse me, on the front of the house.
Okay.
So I'm noticing that in the current home, the front of the house, it has the double windows on the second
Yes.
floor. Would it be possible to keep those paired windows, or
We would like to keep them. Michael reached out to our new building commissioner about that, but he has not, I don't think, gotten back to us. He never got back to me about it. So if we can keep them, we will keep them. That's our goal, would be to keep them, but we wanted to show it to you. Worst case scenario is we have to bring it up to code for the egress. So
So as each individual, as it is now, the two mold units, they don't meet egress, right?
egress,
Right. Hence the single. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So what Dan's referring to is our previous building commissioner was of the opinion that if a bedroom did not change in size at all, no walls were moved, nothing was added, then non-compliant or non-conforming windows could remain. But once a bedroom was enlarged or modified, then he required
Okay.
that the bedroom meet egress. Our new building commissioner hasn't dealt with this question yet, and so I think he's still mulling it over. But I think what Dan's offering is that, and the applicants are offering, is that the paired windows is the preferred if they can stay. But if they have to go to, if the building commissioner determines that they have to put in an actual egress window, then this is what you would see in the final product.
Correct.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Jensen?
yes, I'm just looking at my notes.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering on the Fulton Street side with the new dormer going in, Michael, can you switch to that page? That's perfect. That's perfect. So, how does the new dormer differ from the historical dormer that's there, or how is it this?
Pretty much it's the same, it's just shifted over to center line with the three windows.
Okay.
You know.
So it's not using the current dormer, any materials from the current dormer? It's all new material?
We're expecting it to be all new material, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll be looking at the window conditions and, how it comes apart and see what we can use. But the trim is not, all the trim and siding are in bad shape, and it's not something that would be salvageable.
Oh, that's my next question. Have you determined what the low maintenance siding and trim products will be yet?
I don't think we've actually come to that decision yet. It's either going to be the LP Smart siding or fiber cement would be.
One thing I will say about that, so the commissioner is aware, I've had several calls from architects lately that LP Smart Side has temporarily discontinued the smooth siding, the smooth finish. That's supposed to come back sometime maybe in the third or fourth quarter of this year. So because our siding policy does require smooth siding, when they come back with whatever material, if they decide to go with the LP, you're going to have to decide if you can live with the grained finish, which the National Park Service does not accept, but you could, and we have accepted in some projects. Or if they come back with the hardy or a fiber cement, that does come in a smooth finish. But there is still a supply chain issue with the LP Smart Side in the smooth finish, from what I'm hearing from architects.
It's good to know. I didn't know that. No.
I just have one more for now. Michael, can you go to the front of the house, please? The rendering is fine. That's perfect. So when we talk about the historical shingles that are currently there that are preserving the historical gable, can any of that material be used or kept, or again, is that?
I have not gotten up on a ladder to inspect it or anything. Just from the street, it's in pretty bad shape. So if this general design concept looks good, I think we could dig further into that, and when we go for our actual review, approval, then we would have a decision on that for you. But I'm looking for feedback on that from you. So whether that would be necessary or not, the owner has indicated to me that they would prefer to do the horizontal siding up there and replace it with new siding. So that's their preference. But, you know, that's why we're here, is to get your input on it.
Okay, great.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, if I take a look at the standards that we use to make our decisions, that would be the preferable method if you could use the existing historical material in some way. But obviously we don't know the answer to that right now.
Yeah.
Were you asking, Dan, what the commission's preference is as far as replacing the existing shingle siding with just straight lap siding? Is that what you were asking?
That's whether if we replaced it and used, once we replace it, if we were to propose to replace it, does it matter if it's shingle or lap, or is once it's replaced, it's kind of an open door?
George, what do you think?
Excuse me, so right now, the existing siding on that gable we're speaking about is cedar shakes?
It's shakes of some sort.
Well, it shows up in the elevation, and that was one of my questions as well. All the renderings show lap siding or some kind of similar, and then all of a sudden I found on the construction documents on the elevation something that resembled shingles. And I'm referring to sheet.
Up on the top there,
Yeah,
but not on the front, I don't think.
right. But on the rendering, it doesn't show
It doesn't
those at
show
all.
that, yeah.
So I was, and I know I saw something about materials yet to be decided, but that is a big departure.
Go to that rendering, Michael, if you don't mind. I don't know if I have control or not.
Unless,
I have it, my copy.
My
It's all
computer.
white, so it's hard to see.
yeah, well, I blew it up, but now my screen here is jammed.
There you go.
Well,
If
we
you
do have
zoom
a
in-
rendering on that side though, don't we?
Yeah, if you zoom in onto that
Yeah.
gable, they're shown as shingles. It's just really hard to see in all white.
I didn't pick it up as
Yeah,
shingles
and on
there.
a smaller screen, I'm sure it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But that same product could be used on the front. When we discussed it as a group, the owner said they would prefer to do the shingle siding. It's a very small area in that triangle over the front door, so that's what we showed.
Well, now, on the rendering here, it doesn't show the single above the front door either.
What do you think?
It shows a lap siding.
That's what I'm saying. Is,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we decided to show lap siding there, and on the 2D as well. But just on that big gable on the side, we've shown the shingles.
So I think what Commissioner Jensen is driving as our siding policy would say that if you replace a historic material, it should, even if it's in a new material, it should replicate the historic material on the historic portions of the house. I think that's what you were driving at with that standard.
Yes, thank you.
And what's there now? Is it?
I mean, it's highly unlikely you'll be able to salvage that cedar siding.
It's in pretty bad shape.
That's the reality of it. It's
Yeah.
it's not
It's
gonna.
going to crack as
Right.
soon as we touch it.
So, given what Michael said about the supply issue with LP, you could still go with a composite shake product.
Right.
I mean, I certainly think that will look best conforming to the existing house, what was there before.
Okay.
And I would just make a clarification based on a 5-minute field guide from a few months ago. I think you are saying the wood shingle should be replaced with wood shingle and not wood shake, because wood shake is different than wood shingle.
True. Yes, correct.
Right.
And what would you think about a synthetic shingle, like a LP or hardy board?
I mean, me personally, I am okay with that. I mean, the rest of the home is low maintenance.
Right. And this would be the hardest part to do the maintenance. up there. So, it's,
Anything else, Commissioner Jensen? Okay. I have a basic general architectural question to begin with, and it's something we've wrestled as a commission with before. Where we have an addition to an historic building. Michael, could you run through those other renderings, please? And particularly the one that shows the front?
yeah, there's some with and without the
Yeah,
landscape.
go
just to
back
show
one,
it.
I'm sorry.
You
There we
took-
go.
Yeah, we took the
Okay.
landscaping off.
So, to my point, when we're doing an addition to a significant historic structure, that what generally always comes up is, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I'd be interested to know from the architectural perspective, are we trying to copy or mimic the style of the original to some degree? Are we trying to differentiate it from the original to preserve the character? Well, I'll let you answer before I give you my impression on that.
Okay. I would say on this project, we're pretty sympathetic to the existing details and the trim and following that. I would love to have the opportunity someday to do a, dramatically different modernist addition to something, but
Right.
that's not what we're showing here today.
Well, obviously
Yeah.
the river street elevation, pretty much is the same character as the
Yeah.
original. But I also, and I don't, is the original dormer on the Fulton Street side, and that window, the double window that's above, are those original to that, or was that upper level modified at one time?
That's a good question, because it doesn't look like it was originally built as a second floor.
And the trim on the double windows cuts into the trim that's under the roof line.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like the window was bigger than than they could fit, and they actually had to cut the trim below to fit it. So I'm just thinking that, given the character of this, I don't know if that dormer is original or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's no evidence one way or the other as to.
Yeah, we haven't dug into it. A lot of the stuff becomes clear as you start to strip it away. And there's somebody living in the house right now, so we're not tearing
Right,
it up.
right.
And, we don't even know if this project's going ahead yet, so.
Yeah. Well, and over that period, I'm quite sure there's a bunch of other
Yeah,
changes.
yeah.
But second floor,
Seems like if they thought they were gonna build on the second floor, they would have given a little more height.
right. And so I guess, could we, sorry to-
Before we leave here, I was going to answer your question a little bit about.
Okay.
Typically bungalows, the stairwells were typically lit by a dormer.
Right.
Whether it was a little shed dormer or a low
Oh,
gable dormer.
okay.
That was a very common feature in almost any bungalow that had a stair up to a walk-up attic.
Okay.
But I do think that you're correct that this was not intended to be a built-out space. I think that sometime, whether it was the 2010 remodeling or sometime between 1948 and 2010, someone decided to finish off what was a walk-up attic.
Okay.
So I believe that the dormer location historically is original, whether it was a shed dormer or whether this was enlarged to in 2010 to give a little more window or light up there. We don't know, and there
Okay.
are no historic images that I can find that clearly show what the dormer looked like.
Okay.
So
Could we go back to that other rendering again, Michael, the one that showed both front and side elevation?
it takes me a while to get there because
Yeah.
they're big files. So
I think it's the next one. No, after this. There we go. Okay, it doesn't show it. But the dormer on the River Street obviously is new, but really, in my mind, doesn't compete that much with the existing elevation. But there's something in the rendering that illustrates, I guess, that dormer with the addition and the major roof being the scale is, the slope is the same, obviously, of the roof line, but they seem to be competing with one another to some degree. And that was if I had one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit, it certainly would be that. Now, as the first thing as you walk by, are you going to look on the roof to see if there's a dormer up there or not? Initially, by itself, it seemed odd on the way it sits now, but it even, in my mind, seems a little bit more out of character given the massing of that second floor addition with this. And I know you're trying to get light up into that bedroom, and by reducing from a double that's there now on the front to a single, it's even less light. But had you considered any other approach to that other than moving that dormer over?
We not so much on this one, but on the River Street side, we looked at a shed dormer.
Okay.
And the roof isn't very steep, so it really kind of became really elongated, and we had decided that it would look better as a gable.
Yeah.
And mostly, I think it looks better when you look at it in 3D like this, because in 2D it looks like there's a roof above it, but when you see it in 3D, you see that it's really a little better proportion.
But conversely, the other one on the Fulton side looks better on the elevation in my mind than it does in the rendering. It's certainly more pronounced.
Yeah, I know what you mean by having those two things up there. I mean,
yeah, it's a little
look
busy.
at just taking it off altogether, I guess, and seeing
it seems to be a little busier on the second floor. The first floor is pretty clean.
So simple.
And the elevation's a very simple structure, being the character of the original, but that second story roof now just seems a little busy.
One question then for the commission, because of what you're discussing, if you remove that dormer and maybe you need to go to a front elevation, you'll have wall exposed to the River Lane side on that existing second floor. The dormer right now, let me go back to the elevations. Well,
Okay.
there's a good image right there. The dormer on your left facing Fulton Street is masking any exposed wall of the second floor, protruding, visible from River Lane.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
The dormer roof tends to blend it in more because it pulls off the bigger roof behind it.
Right, it's sort of hiding the mass a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess it's the separation between the two, where one abruptly ends and the other starts again.
I would say if I didn't have that triple window below it, I would probably shift it over to the right another foot, but it seemed important to center it on the triple window.
On the Fulton side, the triple window.
Yeah, the existing triple window that's over there. It seemed like really wanted to center on that.
Just my comments, because I know we had comments about how the roof line was going to extend out, and
Right.
that I think just my opinion, that the dormer is, it's there, okay, and it's kind of standing on its own, but at the same time, it's providing the function of bringing the light in there. it looks more in coordination with the lower windows underneath it because it's pairing up with it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as was noted, that if you didn't have a dormer there, you're gonna have significantly less light in the room, and from the front view of the street, you're gonna be looking at a wall rather than having it kind of hidden here and, more subdued by having the two roof lines kind of
Breaking
Come
down the
into
mass
each
a
other.
little bit. Yeah.
I think the way you redid the side here, definitely, saved the integrity of the original bungalow and then kind of blended the mass into it. So as Don said, I think you guys did a great job here.
Well, thanks. It was brought up during this meeting to set that back, so that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
why we did it.
Right.
So, and it did, and it worked. So I think.
Bravo.
Well, thanks to you guys too.
Any other comments? Questions?
Am I on? Okay.
Yes.
I think I just have one more question, Michael, and it's just for my own clarification. Can you show us the front of the house again? I'm looking at where the current garage is located, where you go under, and I understand you're removing that door.
Correct. Yeah.
But I noticed once we get to the picture,
That one?
yeah, and it could be just the picture, but you're removing the garage door and replacing it with those windows.
Yes.
Those windows, to me, is there a reason why they're a little wider than the other windows on the front? Or is it just the?
We're filling in the existing opening that's there with the triple window. So the width of the window, the single window is there, though I believe that's existing. So it's not too far off of that one, I don't think, just by chance, though.
Elevation.
So will that be part of the basement then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's trying to maintain that the palimpsest of the existing door to show that it was there at one time. And right now, there's these existing basement windows along there.
There you go.
And so we
Yeah.
went a little taller because we were trying to make it a feature for the door, and it'd be nicer in the basement. But we wouldn't have to. Is that what you're saying, to go to the same height as the other windows, or?
Well, I was just wondering, and I can never tell if my red light is on. I was just wondering why they appeared to be wider, what the reasons were behind that, and if that indeed.
You're saying wider side to side?
It's
Or
on the
top to
individual
bottom.
units.
Yes.
So I think what she's saying is, see how narrow the window units are, each individual window unit is?
Top to bottom.
No, width of the window units, they're narrow, even they're triple or
Oh, the
single.
the first floor windows.
Yes, the first one.
Okay.
And I think what's being asked is, could those be made, the base windows be narrowed to match the width of the upper windows and maybe a wider mullion then or something in to fill that opening? So that I think the width, they're all very narrow windows on the front, I think is what you're
Yes.
getting at? Okay.
Okay, I was thinking of them more because they're in that basement coursing to be related more to the basement windows and the width. You can see how the basement windows are a little wider, and then we just dropped the sill down from that. So I was pleased that they were pretty similar to that, and we could make them taller. We like the idea of them a little lower because the grade drops down there, and then from the basement you'd be able to see out a little more. So that would be nice. But
I think it does a good job of mimicking the garage doors. I mean, it was roughly an 8-foot wide door, probably.
yes, yeah. I mean,
Right.
it's we're hoping to just
obviously
use
let
that
the-
exact opening.
The grade has
That's it.
come up and filled in, but
Yeah.
Question of the individual garage door windows, we'll just call them that because that's what they're
Okay.
replacing. They look like they're similar in width to the dormers.
Could be.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm just
Again,
going-
we just filled in the width of with the triple
yeah.
with the mullion
Like I said,
difference.
I agree with Don. I think it works well there, and it sure as hell looks a lot better than that ugly old garage door.
yeah.
I'm I'm a car guy, I just tell it the way it is.
Okay, any other questions, comments,
None for me.
thoughts? Michael, would you like to summarize our thoughts? It's
Sure. In no particular order, Dan and Todd and Igor, just following my notes through, the preference of the applicant and the commission is to keep the paired windows at the second floor if possible. That'll be a building commissioner question, and I will follow through with that. But if you have to go to the single window, I think what you portrayed is acceptable to the commission. There is a desire that if the wood shingles can't be preserved in the gables, that a composite shingle be installed in the gables. The LP Smart siding or the fiber cement siding is acceptable on the addition with the smooth finish. The window arrangements that you have proposed across the River Lane and the Fulton Street facade are acceptable. I think the commission in general is accepting of the Fulton Street dormer in the placement that you've selected for the reasons that were outlined, and it seems like the majority of the commission is comfortable with the basement windows at the former garage door being infilled. There have been no comments about the garage itself, but that is new construction, and it is visible, so I'm assuming from looking at the commission that they're okay with the proposed garage.
Okay.
And I think the biggest item that's left is actually seeing your exact proposed materials when you come back with your permit drawings. But overall, I would summarize that the commission is very happy with the revisions, and I think you're getting a green light to move forward with permit drawings.
Great. Thank you for your time and for coming
Thank
out
you.
on such a lovely evening.
right.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Okay, next on our agenda is the secretary's report. Staff updates.
Give me 1 second to catch up with you. I don't have a lot of significant information to present to you tonight. I do want to tell you that we are continuing to move forward with the ongoing projects that we have that I bring you up to date on every now and then. The survey, permits are all up to date. I did participate in the listening session since our last meeting for the statewide comprehensive plan or guiding principles for the Illinois State Historic Preservation Office. I did report that was coming up at the last meeting. I did participate in that listening session and have provided written comments on behalf of the City of Geneva to the State Preservation Office regarding their long-term planning. So outside of that, I've tried to be available to all of you. If you've got questions, again, I'm always available to you in between meetings as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, that brings us to new business. Anything from the commission?
Well, we got 2 meetings next month, correct?
We have a meeting on the 14th, which is the continued public hearing, and then we have a regular meeting on the 21st.
Is there a time limit on the 14th meeting? Or is it goes until people stop talking?
That's the commission's choice. Typically, at 10 o'clock, the tradition in Geneva is that at 10 o'clock, the commission can decide if they are needing to call the meeting at that point, or if you want to continue for another half hour or for another hour, whatever you want to do.
That's a good question. I have a question. Has there ever been a time limit per person, say 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or so someone doesn't take, not that we don't want them to express what they're trying to get across, but giving other, people equal time to speak also.
the general policy of the City of Geneva is that we don't provide a time limit. However, if a point has been made, it is up to it is at the discretion of the chairman to identify that point has been made and ask the person to move on if there's no additional information, relinquish the podium to the next speaker. But we do
Okay.
not typically time people to 2 minutes, 3 minutes,
Sure.
5 minutes like some communities do.
I mean, has there been an analysis done yet on the project?
I would prefer not to talk about anything that's about the continued public hearing outside of the public hearing.
Fair enough.
Oh, okay.
So I will just say that as we have information, it will be provided to you ahead of the public hearing if possible.
Okay.
If they go too long, can we give them the stink eye?
I can't control what any of you do. I would just say that we are professional representatives of the City of Geneva.
That'd be no.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
And is this the time to make note of the fact that I will not be present at either March meeting?
Correct. And I have confirmed that with the absences that we should have a quorum at both the March meetings.
We're on the calendar.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have anybody on the, well, from the public, I guess, both from the floor, and do we have anybody on?
We do have somebody joining us remotely. They have not indicated by raising their hand that they have any comments they would like to make. They may just be listening. So those who are attending virtually, if you do want to make any public comment, please use the raised hand feature and we will unmute you, and you'd have to unmute yourself to speak, but I'm not seeing any response to that regard. So
Okay.
I don't know if we have someone here.
No.
Oh, there is
Okay.
nothing? Okay.
Okay. Well, do I have anybody moving for adjournment?
Adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Adjourned.